Alright, welcome back. So this is a combination of all of my HTML beginners tutorials all combined into one. So it is 25 separate videos which are also all available individually, and I'm just going to be combining them all into one really big video with an index in case you wanted to watch them all at once without the intro and the exit. So there might be variations with the audio and my hairstyle, as I did do this over quite a few months. So enjoy the full HTML beginners course or tutorial or whatever you want to call it. And yeah, this is a lot of editing, so hopefully it helps you out. Welcome to my HTML introduction. This is just going to be a series of HTML and all of its elements and what to do with them. So it will take you from doing your own code all the way into being able to write your own web page. I've been a web developer for about 15 years or so hopefully I know what I'm talking about. Let's get into what is HTML. So I've got a couple of points here just on the basics, and of course HTML is the standard markup language for creating web pages. It's basically just a bunch of text in between some tags that tells it how to format it. And pretty much every web page uses some form of HTML to show its content. You can actually just show content without HTML and it will display just like normal text. So we just type some text in the top here. I'm just using CodePen for all of my examples here. You can just load up codepen.io and you can type in any of these and it will work the same. So this is our document down below here. This is where the HTML will be converted from HTML and then how it will be displayed down the bottom here. I've just got a couple of points here. If you just type text in, it will just show text, and then if you put some tags in and then text in between the tags, then it will format it in that way. I'll just go through the points here. HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. Well, I guess it's hypertext, isn't it? So it's not just normal text, it's actually marked up text. So we can add tags like, I won't get too deep into tags yet, but a tag is basically these little things there in between the greater and less than signs. And in this list here, you can see the HTML. This is an unordered list, so you've got UL for unordered list. And then within that, we've got LI for, I think it's for list item. And then in each of these we have the LI and LI, and then you can see down in the HTML how it has this list and then each item is bullet pointed there for me to read a little bit more. I can't think of the word. Anyway, HTML is the standard markup language for creating web pages. It describes the structure of a web page, consists of a series of elements, which are these things. Elements tell the browser how to display the content. So if you had just a whole bunch of text here, it will just display, even if I put in a line break, it will just display it all next to each other. It doesn't really know what to do with it. So it's just going to add a space in between these rather than adding them unless we put a BR tag. But we're getting too far into it. I'm just going to do the basics to start, and then we'll get further in as we go along. Makes sense, doesn't it? And the last item is HTML elements label pieces of content such as a heading, a paragraph, and a link. And now this will be just the what is HTML, and then in the next video we will move on to a basic HTML layout. So join me in the next one and we'll go through the basic HTML, and then I think we'll probably just go through all of the elements and attributes and headings and paragraphs and all that kind of thing so that you can just kind of learn it slowly, and then eventually you can write your own HTML and web pages. Today we are doing a basic HTML layout. So this one follows after the what is HTML video. So if you haven't watched that, maybe watch the what is HTML first. But if you want to jump right into how to make a basic HTML layout, then this is how we'll do it. So I'm just using codepen.io to test this code, which basically allows you to type in code here and it will display it down the bottom. If you want, you could also load up a notepad or a text editor, and you can actually type in the HTML into the text editor and just save it as .html, and then you can drag it into a browser and display it that way as well. The only issue with doing it that way is that you do have to reload the browser every time, whereas CodePen, you can type and it will display as you type, kind of. So you put X there and it will just kind of compile the document and show it down the bottom. So it makes it a bit easier if you're editing HTML, and then you can just copy that into a HTML file later if you wanted to. So anyway, let's start with the basic HTML layout. So we're going to start this layout with a doc type, and this just looks like doc type, and we are doing HTML doc type. So with doc types, you can basically defines that the document is a HTML5 document. So it's just doc type HTML. It will work without this, but that is the best practice to add that if you are working with HTML5. And the next element we will add is a HTML element. So that's HTML. This starts off the HTML document, and this is everything in the HTML will be within this tag. So then we will add also a closing tag here. So just HTML, and to close the tag we just put a slash. So everything within these two is in the HTML document. So you want everything to be kind of contained within there. I don't know why we've got a exclamation point there. We have unsaved changes, so we will call this basic HTML layout, and then I will share this for you to use later if you wanted to. Alright, and the next element we have, let's actually have a look at why we use a HTML tag, and it is basically the root of the HTML page, so everything should be within that tag. And the next element we have is a head tag, head, and then this loads things in the head of the document. It doesn't actually have any formatting on it, but we have a head opening and closing tag, and then in your head you'll put things kind of like things that need to load first, or your meta tags and things like that. We can go through that later maybe, but for this simple basic HTML, we'll just leave our head tag with one element in it, and that will be the title tag, which is then the title of the HTML document. I'm pretty sure I saved that. Let's save. Alright, and then this title here, so basic layout. And then this here will actually display up in the tab above, which you can't see, but this kind of labels the HTML document. So when you see browser tabs and it has a title, that's where it gets the title from. So you've got your HTML head title, and then we will move into another tag, which is the body tag, and then we're going to open this body tag, and then we're going to close it down here. And you can see how I actually add tabs just to make it a little bit easier to kind of follow where the layout is. So you can see that the HTML is obviously in line with that, and then the head is in line with this, and then we kind of indent the title in there as well. Just makes it a bit easier to read your code later on. So then in our body tag, it's a container for all of the kind of visual contents in the page. So this, it won't display here. So we put the title, but that will only display in the top of the screen. And then anything in the body, if we just put an X in here, the X will display down here. And it does actually come with margin and padding on HTML and body by default, usually using the browser's settings. So within the body tag, we can now start our document. And usually the best thing to put in the body tag is a H1, and this is a heading 1 tag. So this will be the largest and the main heading of the document. So we're going to call this one hello, and then it should display hello down the bottom. I can move this up a bit. You can't see it in my zoomed layout. I can move that up a bit as well. So now we have our body, and then a H1 and a closing H1, and that's just the main head tag. I think head tags go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm not sure, they probably go even higher than that. But it is kind of just the order of the headings, and they are small all the way from H1 to H6. The good thing about CodePen is it actually does open and close some tags for you some of the time. And then If we wanted to put a subheading below that, we could actually just put in a H2 and close H2, and we can type in world, and then we have hello world in our document. And then, so these are our two headings. Obviously they look pretty averagely formatted because we haven't had any. This is just using default kind of formatting. And then we can add a P tag and say this is our paragraph. I kind of like to close the tags before I write the content in there because, I don't know, otherwise sometimes you forget to close them and then it breaks the HTML. And so within our P tag, we will type, this is my first document. And there we go, that is our whole basic HTML layout. So see, that wasn't very hard, was it? And we've got doc type is HTML, then we've got the main HTML tag, and you can see it kind of highlights as you select it. Shows you the opening and closing. Then we've got our head, which has got the title in it for the top. Body, H1, so two H tags for headings, and then P for our paragraph element. And that is it for a basic HTML layout. I think in the next one we'll go through adding a Google font and making the basic HTML layout look a little bit nicer than using Times New Roman and the default settings. Alright, welcome back for another video. In this one we're taking the basic HTML layout from the last video and we're going to add some Google fonts and make it look a little bit nicer than this terrible looking default document. So let's get straight into it. I googled Google fonts before, you can see it here. We'll add the font straight away pretty much into this and just talk about Google fonts and how to apply them, and then we'll get rid of this Times New Roman. Actually, I've just added style under this one. I'm using CodePen to edit this, and also I will add a link to this if you wanted to get a copy yourself. We'll just go to Google Fonts. You can just Google Google Fonts and it usually comes up. And you can see, you can just go straight into it and browse the fonts. And pretty much just pick a nice font that looks a little bit nicer than Times New Roman. You can do fancy fonts for headings and that kind of thing. So we might actually pick two fonts, one for the heading and one for the body text, and then show you how to apply them to your document. I think everyone's using Roboto at the moment, and this one kind of looks cool as well, Dotto. But we want kind of a nice, maybe that would be a cool heading. Sour Gummy for the heading. Looks a little bit like Comic Sans, if anyone remembers that font. That was quite terrible. So anyway, we click the font that we choose from fonts.google.com, and then we go Get Font. And then once we've selected the font, we want to get the embed code. We don't actually want to download the font, even though you can also download it if you want to install it on your local computer. And then you'll see here on the right that we've got link or import. So the link one, we can place that in the head of our HTML, and the import, we can actually add that within the CSS. So it just depends whether you want to add it to your head document or your CSS, but I think CSS is a little bit neater because it's just one line, whereas the link has about 10 things that it's loading. So usually I like to add the import to this. So yes, we're back to so we copy this at import. Don't need the style tags because we've already got that in our CSS here. It automatically applies them. And then we just paste in at import and the URL. And then if we go back to our selection, it will actually also show you a CSS for that as well. I don't even know what Sour Gummy Uniqueifier is. What's the Uniqueifier? I'm not sure. But what we really want to get from this is the font family. And then we actually want to just apply this to our H1 and H2 tags so far. So we're going to go in our CSS, H1, and then curly brackets, and then paste what we got from the Google fonts. And you can see already that our main H tag has been changed. And then we want to also add H2s in here. So we can do a comma and then H2. And then it will apply Sour Gummy font. And then if it can't load this font, it will load the sans serif font. So if we removed this part, it will actually default back to sans serif rather than Times New Roman. It's always nice to put in the sans serif as your backup font, because otherwise it will load the default, which is usually Times New Roman, which doesn't really look the best. Well, I mean, it probably does, but I don't really like that font very much. And then also we can actually, it probably has some recommended line heights for this as well. It doesn't. Font optical sizing auto. I've never seen that particular tag before. That must be relatively new. It doesn't seem to make any difference. You can also add the line height here, and we can go 1.2, which will be M's. Doesn't seem to make any difference either. But yes, that is how we add our H1 and H2. These automatically have margins and paddings added usually. Right, and then we'll do the same thing again, but just for open sans, so that we can change, let me move this up a bit, put this here. So then we can change this into like just a nice sans, or if we didn't want to use Google font, we could just go sans serif, and it looks okay. For the serif fonts, I think Roboto, it's kind of boring, isn't it? But it looks nice. So we'll just get that, copy it really quickly, get font, get embed code, import, copy this again, back to here. So we're actually going to be loading 2 fonts for this. This is actually loading every single weight and style, so maybe it's not very efficient as we are only loading 1. This loads weight all the way from 100 to 900 and italic and everything. So yeah, it's a little bit much just for loading 1, but it does work. Why did that particular one break? P and then P. It's because it's pasted the style tags in. If you paste a style tag in, that will break the whole thing, especially if you paste it within a CSS. And then we go font family, and we can actually go back and copy that again from here. It's got a whole bunch of different ones if you want to add them separate classes for each font. But this one we can just go font family and font style normal. So now we go P, font family Roboto, and then serif is the backup for this. This one we have sans serif for the headers as a backup, and this one we just have regular serif. So now we've got hello world, and now I think we actually want to style this very similar to this so that we have a darker background and brighter text so it doesn't hurt our eyes as much, or my eyes, or everyone's eyes. And to style the document, we have HTML, so we can actually style either the HTML or we can style the body tag. So either way, you can do both of them at the same time, or you can just do the body. Usually you can just go body. We want to set the background this, so we go body and then a curly brackets and then background. And then we kind of pick a hex color. I think 444 is pretty close maybe to this, or maybe not. Let's just load up DevTools real quick, and I'll just grab the color of this because I kind of like that color. Close that again. We will go into DevTools another time. All right, so now this is the same as this color, and obviously we can't read the text because it's all black, which is default color. And then we want to set our color of the body, which should do every element that hasn't been specifically styled, as probably almost white, so maybe EEE. And then we have, if you do FFF, it's a little bit bright sometimes. So EE is slightly off white. And yes, that is how we do basic HTML layout style, adding Google fonts and just a little bit of color changing with the background. And I think that's probably enough for this basic video. All right, I'm getting lots of videos done today. This one is on HTML formatting elements. So this is actually quite a lot of different tags that basically do special formatting for elements. So this is actually quite a lot of tags to go through. We've probably got about 10 tags, maybe a few more. But we'll start off with the tag B and strong. So this will make our text. So basically we'll have some text here. This is the normal text. So this is what our text looks like with no formatting on it. Let's save this, or it will give me annoying messages. I'm just editing this in codepen.io if you wanted to kind of test this out. It's a nice, easy platform to use. We're using the bold tag. So we'll go through these quite quickly, otherwise it'll be a really long video. So we've got B, and everyone can guess what that's for. B is for bold. So if we put our text in a B tag, it is bold text. And the bold text is also very similar to strong. If you prefer, you can use strong. Strong. B is easier to use than strong because it's smaller, obviously. And that is the bold tag. The next tag we'll do is I for italic text. So we have text and then I, and that should show as italic. So we have our normal text there and our italic text in the I tag. The next one is M. I think I'm just going to rename these tags and maybe it'll do it automatically. M is for emphasis, emphasized text. And it does look very similar to I, but it is M. Mark. Let's go mark. I don't think I've ever used mark in HTML. That's what it looks like. But you can actually see it is highlighted. So if you wanted to get some text, if you had a whole bunch of text and then you put the mark tag, it will actually highlight that text, which I think Google uses that for when you search things and it kind of highlights the text. All right, the next one is small, and that will make our text smaller than the normal text. And the next one is DEL, which is for deleted. And this should put a strike through our text. All right, the next tag is inserted text. INS. Inserted means underlined. Not sure why it's called inserted. I don't have the full details of that, but that is the tag. The next one is sub, which is subtext, so it will go below this text here. And then you can guess what's next, and the final tag is sup. So you can go sup, and then it will put the text up in supertext. So it will move it up here. So sub is below, and sup is higher. So you can use that for things like, I don't know, subtext. Sometimes you have like a 2 there. If you put a 2, and then you link that to some sort of document, or you could go E equals MC and then squared. Is that how it looks? I'm not sure. All right, back to text. Anyway, that is HTML formatting elements and all of the ones that I know about anyway. Today we are doing HTML attributes, and what are they? So this should be a nice quick one because HTML attributes are fairly easy to explain if you know what an element is, which is hopefully what I did in the last video. Anyway, HTML attributes provide additional information about HTML elements. An element is something like a P tag. We did elements in the last one, and some text and another P. And if we wanted to add an attribute to this P tag, it would be something like style. So in this first part of your element, and then equals, and then what style should we give this? Font, weight, bold. And now our P tag shall have the attribute of style, and then in this attribute it has font weight of bold, saying anything within this P tag will now be bold. So that is what an attribute is. We'll do another attribute example. Usually you see an A tag, which is a link tag, and then the close A tag. And this is pretty useless by itself because we'd have nothing to link this to, so we'll just type in some text to link. And it doesn't really know what to do with this because it is a tag with no link in it. So the attribute of A will be href equals, and then the open and close quotes. And you can see now it actually has the underline that looks like a link. And so the A's attribute will be href, and then we can put in a link on this, which will be my web page. Usually if you want to link to external, you obviously add a HTTPS, and then the codepen.io, that spell. And now it actually shows we've already visited the CodePen site. But then if we click this, it'll reload this page and break everything. But that is what an attribute is. So you have an element, and then its attribute is a style. You can also add multiple attributes if you like, or if you need. So say if we wanted this link to open in a new tab or a new window, we could actually add the attribute of target, and then equals and brackets. I would say brackets, but it's actually quotation. I don't know why I say bracket. Target equals, and then we can put in blank. And now this link, when we click on it, I better actually just save this really quickly in case my link doesn't actually work. But yes, so we've got an A tag, href of our URL, and the target is blank. So this should actually then load in a new tab when I click this. I'll just reload just in case it doesn't work. Yes, and now we have this loading in a new tab. So that is working. So that is what a HTML attribute is. Today we're doing what is a HTML heading, or just HTML headings. So this should be a nice quick one because it's only about 6 tags. Let's get into it. What is a HTML heading? I'll just rename my test document here. HTML headings. A HTML heading is basically a H tag with a 1 through to 6 in it. So the first tag would be H1, and this is a heading 1 and then a close H1. So that is heading 1, which is the largest, and it also does affect the way some things read the page. So this should be your first and main heading of the page. And then there's H2, heading 2, and then all the way down to 3, 4, 5, and 6. So because I'm lazy, I will copy and paste these. Oh, we have to rename this to 3. Hopefully my keyboard is not too noisy. I have to type quietly. Heading 4, and then we have heading 5, and finally heading 6. And we'll just scroll this up so you can see all of the headings. Oh, we're still on 4. Okay, so we'll go 5 and 6. We're just adding this in CodePen, so it does a little bit of code editing magic here. So that is all of our main headings, H1 all the way through to 6. How should you use these headings? Basically, they're defined with these tags, and they are important as the search engines do use the headings to index the site. So when a search engine looks at your site, it will look for this H1 tag first and go, all right, this must be the real title of the document. Obviously, it uses other things such as page title and that kind of thing as well. But if it finds more information in the heading than it does in the page title, it will probably use the first H tag that you use. Some people also just skim through a page and they'll check the heading tags first, as these do stand out more. So make sure you use your heading tags properly. That is pretty much what the headings are in HTML. Today we're looking at HTML paragraphs and what is a HTML paragraph. A paragraph always starts on a new line and is usually a block of text. You can use them for other things, but generally you should always use them for an actual paragraph. So a paragraph tag starts with a P and also ends with a slash and then P again. And then we just add our text in the paragraph, and browsers will generally add some margin and padding to the top and the bottom by default. If we wanted to style this, we could add a P and then go margin, M-A-R-G-I-N and 0. And then we have no margins or text, so it kind of resets it if you want. Or you could just add a margin 0 and then margin bottom and then 10 pixels if you wanted to have your margins just on the bottom of the Ps. Browsers will generally always line break between paragraphs, so we can get rid of this CSS again and just see what it looks like by default. So it has a little bit of margin and padding on the top. We can actually view that by just adding the developer tool. So you can see what it's adding here is the default is margin 16. So that's 16 top and bottom and 0 left and right. So just for some reason, this browser adds that margin, but they usually will add those kind of margins. So that is a paragraph text. It will wrap the text usually if you have a whole bunch of text here, unless there is no word breaks in the text. So if we resize this a bit, I can't resize it anymore. Yes, if we go an unexpected character. What's an unexpected character? If we get to the edge of the screen here, it will actually wrap that text, but it will still go always to the new line between the paragraphs. What else can I tell you about paragraphs? There's not really much else to say, apart from if you have kind of spaces in text. What is the unexpected character? XX text. Basically, P tags, use them for paragraph text. That's about it, really. What is a HTML paragraph? There we go. That's what it is. P tag, content, another P tag. That's a paragraph. All right, welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about HTML styles and how to use them. What is a HTML style? Basically, a HTML style is actually an inline attribute to a HTML element where we can style that attribute. The recommended way of adding a style is actually via CSS, but you can also add inline styles as well. This is not recommended, but it is a kind of a quick fix. If you really need to apply a style fast to an element, you can use it that way. So let's add an element in our HTML styles test document, which is linked in the description if you wanted to have a look at the code for this. So let's say we will add a P tag because I love P tags so much, or we can add a div, but this time we'll add a P tag and then some text. And to add our style attribute to our P element, we will add style and then equals and double quotes, and then this is the style in HTML. And now there's lots and lots of styles you can use, but I guess a good one for text would possibly be the bold tag. So we can go style, we can actually go font, weight, W-I-G-H-T, oh, can't spell, G-H-T, bold. And now you can see down below in the example that we have a p tag with style font weight bold, and then anything within this p tag will be bold. So let's just copy this into another p tag and say we want this font color to be bold and red. So now we want to put a style color and then a colon, and then we can just type red. And now we have red and bold text in our p tag. So that is how you use styles within HTML. Now, the recommended way of doing this is actually to give the element a class and then apply your styles via the class. So, assuming as we're not really talking about CSS at the moment, we're just talking about inline styles. This is the CSS within an inline. If we did want to convert this into a class, a CSS class, we would replace this style tag with a class element. So we would actually copy these styles. So we go p class and equals. Probably do this in another video actually. And we'll go red and dash bold. So now we know our class is called red bold. And we can actually put this red bold over here in the CSS. So we go dot because it's a class. Then we do curly brackets or curly braces. Are they called brackets or braces? I'm not sure. And now we can remove this part of the style tag here. So we just X that, and then we'll delete that style altogether. So we have p class red bold and text. And at the moment it's black because we have no styles. And then we paste our styles from the style tag in here. And that way it's easier to see, all right, this is my red bold class, and this is my p with red bold, and you can see that is a lot neater, and then you can actually apply that to multiple different things. If I had a div there, and then I put red bold in this, you can actually reuse them. So then you can put in a class of red bold on your div, and you'll have this, and then if we change this CSS over here, it will change this and this, whereas if you put in inline styles, you have to do them separately. But yes, that is HTML styles. So the main point of this video was this part, which is HTML inline styles and how to use them. Today we're doing HTML quotation and citation elements. We will go through block quote, Q, ABBR, address, cite, and the BDO elements. So let's start off with block quote. And this is what a block quote will look like. So we'll just put some normal text here at the top so you can see. And I probably should have got some sort of lorem ipsum text, shouldn't I? Text is here in a block quote. And then we close off our block quote. I think my keyboard is too loud, isn't it? But I can't, well, I don't have a quieter keyboard, so I guess I'm stuck with it. So that is text, and then text in a block quote. So it kind of indents the text and puts a bit of margins on there, that kind of thing. We can probably look at it in our code viewer, and you'll see that a block quote by default is quite heavily padded. It's kind of got the same margin as a p tag, which is 16 by default, and then it has a 40 margin on each side. So that's what a default block quote styling looks like. All right, the next element is a Q for short quotation. I'm actually not even sure what this looks like. So we can put a p tag here for a paragraph, and we'll go some text and text here, and then we'll put in within this a Q tag slash Q, no, slash, not a, slash Q. And there we have some Q text here. So this automatically then adds quotations to the text. That's nice, isn't it? So you got text and then some quotation text element. All right, the next one, because we don't want to be here all day, do we, is ABBR. So we're going to use probably a p tag again, and then we can put an ABBR. And this actually allows you to put a title in it. So we can go, oh, I better save. I always forget to save. Let's save this. Now we've got, I actually should do a list of these, shouldn't I, in the code. But anyway, we're overwriting stuff today. ABBR, you can just watch the video back if you want to see the elements again. ABBR. And this one, we're going to put some text in here. So it looks like this, nothing at the moment. But then we can put in here title equals, this is some text, and we'll see what it looks like now. So now it has a dotted line, and if you mouse over it, it actually has, this is some text as a little pop-up there. But you can't see, for some reason, that's drawing as an extended element on there. But in my browser, I can actually see there's a little kind of pop-up window there, but you can't see it. So if you try that for yourself, you'll actually see it has a little pop-up text. It must kind of draw it on top of the browser. All right, and the next quotation is address. And this is used for contact information. So we'll go address. I should have done this before, shouldn't I? I'm very lazy. All right, so now we go address and close address. I actually don't even know what this one looks like, or that it was a tag before. I just kind of discovered it today. So now we've got some text and then BR. What does the address look like? Oh, it has that, some text, and then phone, and then colon, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so it looks like it basically just adds italics to it. Alright, and that is the address tag. There's nothing really that special about address apart from the fact that it does seem to add italic for some reason. Let's try adding an A element in here and see if it does anything funny to this. And we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then link it to, yeah, it's the same. All it does seems to do is just add italic. Well, that's quite boring, isn't it? All right, and that is the address element. Is there any other ones? There is also a cite element. So we can go P, and we've got some text again. And now we're going to put a cite in there, in the word text. So we're going to put cite. Kind of looks like city, but spelled wrong. And then slash cite. So that means we're citing some text. And this is once again italic by default for cite. Cite. And the final one in this list of quotations is BDO for bidirectional override, whatever that means. Apparently is for overriding the current text direction. Oh, so you can actually put text so that it formats on the other side of the screen. That's very handy, isn't it? So we'll go BDO, move my cursor so you can see it, BDO, some text, and then BDO. I think that the default is left aligned text, but then we can add the attribute to this to dir equals RTL, and then it should pop that text backwards. Now that is very, very not useful. Or maybe for some people it is, but I cannot think of a reason why I would use the BDO element, but there you go. It has been added, so obviously some people have a use for it. Please let me know in the comments if you have used the BDO, DIR, and RTL combination before. Does that mean if we go LTR, it goes left to right and normal? So it kind of cancels itself out. Anyway, and that's it for HTML quotation and citation elements. Today we are doing a HTML comment. What are they and how do you use them? So basically, HTML comment is something that you can put in your HTML that the developer can read or anyone viewing the source can read, but the browser ignores it usually. The official definition for HTML comments is that they are not displayed in the browser, but they can help document your HTML source code. So let's just say we have a p tag here with some text, as you do in your HTML, and then we wanted to say to someone in the future or ourselves what this p tag is for. We can actually add a comment in by doing a less or greater than symbol and then an exclamation point and 2 dashes, and that opens our comment tag. And now we can type anything in here, comment, and then we do 2 dashes and the close. I don't know what that's called, less than or greater than symbol. So this here is our comment tag. So we can add multiple of these around the place with different comments on different tags tag 1, and that is the HTML comment tag. As long as you start it with this and end it with this one, then that is pretty much all you need. And you can add it inline if you wanted. You could put a comment within this text, or if you wanted to say hidden, and then we just put our comment tag again and then close it there. And so the browser will only translate this P and then the text, and then it ignores all of this and then closes the P. Just want to make sure you close the tag or it can break things. If I did that, it will actually break the P tag. So you have to be careful where you put the comment tags. So yes, that is the comment tags, or the comment tag in HTML. Today we are working on HTML colors. First we're going to need an element to be able to color, and we'll start off actually by naming this HTML colors, or COLOURS if you're from Australia like me. And now we need an element that we can actually test this color on. So we're going to go div and call it class myCol, or myCol, but I'll say that is our div. We'll need to give this some sort of size. So on the CSS we're going to put in dot and myCol, and then go height 100 pixels and width 100 pixels. Now we have our test element ready to go with an X in it. Doesn't look very exciting at the moment, but soon we will add a color to it. So the color is a color tag, COLOR, and a colon, and then you can type in red or a color name, and it should color this in, but it is not for some reason. myCol height color red. That's very strange. Oh, that's right, because that is the foreground color, of course. And then if we wanted to do the background color, we would actually need to do a background. Fine, I will save this so everyone can see it in the future. Background black. Now we have the foreground as red and the background as black. So that is basic color usage in HTML. I can't even say it. We can also use a hex code for the color. If you've got a hex in your photo editor or anything like that, you can put a hash, and then the hex code 0 is black. I can't remember what red is. I think it's F00 foo. Then that's red. Or you can actually go 4. You can go double F, double O. Double O is the same. We go FF foof, which is bright pink. You can also use other names, like there's a whole list of them actually. There's medium sea green if you prefer to use those type of things. Or there's violet or slate blue, or there's a whole list of colors which I'll probably link. I think there's actually 140 standard color names which you can use. I'll probably link that in the description somewhere actually. And that is HTML color basics. Color. Type in your color, or you can use the hex code. You can actually use RGB code as well if you wanted to make it transparent. So we could actually put in a transparent background here going RGBA, and then we put in a 0 for black, 0, 0, and then the opacity level, which is half, and then we actually get a half level or a kind of faded opacity instead of that, and then you can change the opacity level all the way up to 1, and that will make it fully black, or 0.1 will make it very faint. So, and then you'll be able to see an element behind this with that background color. So that is HTML colors. Today we are doing HTML styles CSS. What is CSS? CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheet, but what does it mean? It saves a lot of work, and it controls the layout of multiple web pages at once. Amazing. Basically, CSS allows you to style and change your HTML elements. So it does actually save a lot of work by applying multiple kind of styles and things to your HTML. So we'll start with a P tag like usual, as I love the P tags. Style, and then close the P tag. And then we will add some CSS to change this P tag. So if we wanted to target all of the P tag, we can just type in P and then 2 open brackets, and then we can type in font size 20 pixels. And that changes our P tag to be 20 pixels, but remains the same font. Then if we wanted to change the color, we can change the color to red. and we want to make the font bold. Font bold. Nope, that's wrong. Font bold. There we go. So this basically is the CSS to your HTML, and it will target every single p tag in the page. If we wanted to target a single p tag or a specific p tag, you can actually just type in class equals my p, or anything you want. You can put anything here in the class name, and then we just change this p tag to dot and my p, and then this will style this p tag. Now what happens if you have a global p tag style and also a class? Which will override which one? If we had this as a p and this is a my p, but this has a specific target, this should actually override this general one depending on the order. So if you put this before this p tag, then this will override, and then if you put that after, it will override the other way. So then if we want this one to be blue, my p should now be blue, unless we move this above, because it actually reads them in order. So this first will be overridden by the second, as it does kind of go in a hierarchy. So all of your p tags will be red and bold. If I put a p tag in here, red p, and then this one should still be red, and then this one's blue. And then if we move this here, as this one already has a class, it will still override that. But if we put two p's like that, the second will override the first. So because it has a my p, you can also target it like this, p dot my p, if you wanted to, and the dot is the class. So then that will, if you add just the class name, you could add this to any element. So you can actually put div and then class my p, even though it's not a p, which is why you shouldn't use that kind of name. Text again, div. So then that will take on this. That will actually not, because I've got a p in front of it, so it targets only p classes. If we wanted to target everything, get rid of the p, and if we want to target just divs, you can actually add a div on there as well, div.myp, and then we can change that to a div. So you can actually target elements with class names. You can actually target elements with multiple class names as well. Class, actually we'll call it myp2, or we can call it class2, and then to target a second class you can put another dot, and then that will target div, and then class myp, and then this should be that. So let's change this to pink, and that is what CSS is. Basically styling HTML. Very, very basic description of CSS, but that is what it is. Cascading style sheets as they cascade down the page. I'm not sure if that's why they call them that, but I'll make it up for this video. And yes, there we go, CSS, HTML styles, let's go. Today we are doing HTML links, also known as hyperlinks. What is a HTML link? I'm sure you've seen one before. It is a link on a web page. How do we create one? A HTML link is created with an A attribute. No, an A element, not an attribute. An attribute would be something else, like a href. That is an attribute, and that is where we want our A to point to. So we have an A, and a href is the attribute, and then to end that we put an A again, a /A. The way that these links work is you put in a text link, so the link name here, and then this shall show up here as the link name, and currently we don't have it linking to anything. So if you have a blank link, it usually just links to itself or whatever is in the browser here. And if we wanted to make this link to something, we don't really have anything here. For example, we wanted to link to something on the page. We could put a div with a, is it a title? An ID actually. Put an ID on it equals link, and then we'll just put an X on this. It actually doesn't need any content, and then we want to actually add a whole bunch of margin to this. So we're going to actually put in CSS link. Yes, thank you. I know there's some unsaved changes. That's very helpful. And then link, we're actually going to put in, why did you move my page around? Margin top, like 500 pixels. Will that be enough? And hopefully that will move our link all the way down. No, oh, because it's an ID, of course. We can target IDs. There we go. Now it's down here. Now our link is 500 pixels down the page. And if we wanted to link to our ID link, we could put in a hash here and then type in link, and then our link goes blue because it actually exists now. And when we click it, it should scroll down to the X. And it does. There we go, and that is a HTML link. You can add anything here like a relative URL or even a full link like this if you wanted to. You could put in this and then it will link to that. If you wanted this link to open in the same tab, it will usually by default. If you wanted to open this link in a new window, you can actually add a target attribute and go equals, and then you can say underscore blank, and then this link will actually then load in a new window. I better save it, and yes, there we go. It's opening in a new window because we did target blank. You can also do target top, which will target this specific window, and you can also do target blank should add a new tab. What else can I say about HTML links? Anything else exciting? Not really. You can actually get the page to scroll smoothly if you wanted to. I think there's actually an attribute for that. Body. I have to go look this attribute up so I can remember, but there is actually a smooth scroll one. Yes, I found it on my code archive. You can actually add scroll behavior smooth, and then you can actually paste that in here. You can add it on body or HTML, and then as it scrolls, we'll just add actually a bit more. You probably actually won't even be able to see it scroll because there's nothing else there. That is very tricky then, but it should actually add a smooth scroll as we link to link, hash link. That's to target the ID. Oh yeah, you can see it kind of smoothly scrolling if you look at the scroll bar there. That's a smooth scroll. If we delete that, it just jumps straight to it. Let's go back. There, see how it jumps? That's jumping versus smooth scrolling. Anyway, I got sidetracked, but yes, that is HTML links. Today we are looking at HTML images. What can we do with them? How do we use them? And we're going to look at images, the basics, some background images. Let's start off with the basics, which is an image tag. So the way an image tag works is img, and then we go equals, no we don't, we go src equals, and then we put a URL in here to our image. So you can see there, we had a little broken image tag for a minute, but it disappeared. I just had an image that I got from Pexels, and then I uploaded these to Imgur so we can get a nice clean link for these. And then you just go kind of copy image address once you've uploaded them here. You can actually just go copy image here, and then you can actually just paste them into Imgur and it will add them automatically. And then we just copy the image address, and that's my notes, and then we can paste it into this image tag. Yes, back to the image tag. This is an unclosed image tag, so we actually want to close it as well. And then just in case the image doesn't load, we will want to put an alt tag in here, and then this will actually give it a bit of text. If the image is broken for some reason, it will say what the image is, so we can say cup of tea. So then if this image is broken, if we put a broken link in here like an X, it should actually then say broken image tag and then cup of tea. So then if the image is broken, you can still kind of see what it would be. I do have a few images to play around with here, so we'll just copy this here, and then I will put in my other image URLs in the end here. These are obviously not alt cups of tea. So you can see how these image tags actually sit next to each other because they are by default display inline. So they will display inline next to each other. We can change that to be a block if you want them to stack. So you could change all the images on here in your CSS to be display block. And then they should stack down the page, because then it is actually full width block element. Or you can go inline block, and then if you do inline block, you can then start adding some styles to these. So you can add padding right 10 pixels, and it should add a little bit of padding next to these images and that kind of thing. If you don't have display inline block, then it won't allow you to add padding to them. Or does it? Maybe it has a padding. Maybe padding does work with inline images. Now we can actually, as you can see, these images are not all the same height. So we can actually apply a height and a width to these. This will do obviously all of the images. Get rid of the padding here for the moment. And we can go height, let's just say 140 pixels, and this will probably push them down to 140. But then if we put a width in there as well, say maybe 250 pixels, it will then squash our images, which we don't want. Let's actually make this height 250 as well, so they're nice and square. And if we want to make these images look unsquashed, because you can kind of see they're out of proportion there, you actually use the object fit. This will keep the height 250 and width 250, but it will then scale the images, or not sure what the word is for that. It'll resize the images but keep them centered. So if we didn't have object fit cover, you can see it squashes them. So you can go from squashed, because it's squashing to 250 to 250. And if we go cover, it will actually then probably have some image here and some image here, just to kind of make them all nice and centered. So that is the basics of an image tag. If you wanted to actually add, you can add inline height and styles in here as well. If you wanted individuals, or you can add a class and do it a similar way. So you can go style equals height to 40 pixels, and that should override this as it is an inline style, and inline styles do override CSS unless you put important on your CSS. So I wanted this CSS to override this, and then I could add important, which is quite dangerous as it does override everything, and then that will force this back to 250 again. And then if I put important here, this will then override that, and then you can't override that anymore. Adding important is not really recommended, as it is quite hard to change your code later on if you start putting importance in all the time. It's much better just to look for the element and do it that way. Or if you wanted, you could actually add a class here, image1, very descriptive, and then we could actually add this same thing in image1 and make it a bit smaller if we wanted to, 240 and 240, and then that will still be object fit cover, but it's resize it a bit. All right, let's move on to background images. So you can actually use images within other elements. They don't have to be in an image tag, and the way we do this is by using them as a background. If we wanted to have a div element with an image in it and we use it as the background, we go div and then close div. Give this a class called image bg1. Now currently this div will be 0 by 0 pixels, so we wouldn't be able to see it. So we have to actually give this a height 100 pixels and a width 100 pixels. And we can actually set the background to maybe black so we can see where the div is. So this is our div that we're targeting. If we got rid of the height and width, it will disappear, so you won't be able to see anything. And then if we wanted to set this image as the background of this, we would then put in, instead of, well, we can actually put background, so this is the color, and then you'll put in URL and then brackets and some quotation marks, and then we paste in our image here, and you can see that this is actually grabbing this. Where is that? I don't know what that's grabbing. It's grabbing a weird part of this image. Oh, that's this image. So it's probably grabbing this top corner. So in here we can actually go background, size, and cover, and then it will squish this image into here. It's actually gotten this really big image if we removed all of these, but it's got that, and it's fitted into our div background, which is 100 by 100. If we want to size this as we have background size cover, you can also go background size contain, and it will then keep, then we have an issue here because the image is this aspect, so it's kind of repeating here. So cover is better, usually, depends on your situation. Now we have this new-ish object fit attribute on the image. It is less useful to use this type of image. I was also going to use the picture element as well, where you can kind of give different sources of images, but I think that that might be better for another video, as it is a whole thing in itself. Same with image map. So this will just be HTML images using the background image and then the basics of image elements. So yes, that is it. Today we are going to add a favicon to this index HTML. Now a favicon is this little icon up here. It's basically just an image or a little icon that you can add. You can see these ones have, this is an icon, and Imager has its own little brand, so it's nice to have your own icon. You can actually use PNGs or SVGs or GIFs or JPEGs. I think you can actually even use animated GIFs. They are supported, but you don't want to have the file being too large, or it might cause issues when you load it. We're actually just using VS Code because CodePen does not support me changing the favicon. So we've switched to VS Code and now indexed here. We can close this. In VS Code, to get a basic HTML, you can actually just type in an exclamation mark and then enter, and it will do a very basic document setup for this. So we save this and we can reload. And at the moment you can just see it says document and it has no favicon. So the code for a favicon usually goes in your head element, and we add in this, which I have copied from my notes. Link rel equals icon, then type equals image/x icon, and then we add our image tag here. Usually this will be on your server. I don't really know if anyone uses .ico anymore, do they? It must be a very basic format, but usually I just add a PNG in there with some transparency. So we'll just grab one of them now. This is probably going to be a weird looking favicon. I'm not sure if this is going to work. We'll try it. Otherwise I'll have to go grab an actual icon for this. So we're just going to link to an imager, which is probably pretty dodgy. Let's see if it works. Yeah, it does work. There we go. So we've got this image from Imager as our favicon, which is a massive, massive image. The better option would obviously be to use a nice PNG file that is 32 or 64 or 128, all the way up to 512 by 512, because it is a small image and it is the same height as width. And you can actually use SVG files as well, which is a lot neater, as these do scale very well, whereas PNGs do not scale as well. So I'll just go and find a nice PNG that we can use, and I'll add that instead. Now just looking on this SVG repo, open licensed vector icons. I don't know what kind of icon we should use. We'll just pick a random one, maybe an alien head. How do we get this icon now? Oh, download SVG. So we have alien SVG repo. I'll just add this here. No, it doesn't support it. That's very sad. All right, that's fine. So we can use the local one, which is aliensvgrepo.com, and we will add that here instead of this. Actually, I should turn on word wrap. View word wrap. Okay. Now we will replace this with our local file, alien repo. We'll put a dot and a slash there, so we know that it is in the same folder, and we can see that that's actually showing up in our Explorer in VS Code, which is very handy to show that it's the right file name. And then we'll save that and reload, and there you can see our alien repo head. If we wanted this SVG to be white, we can actually go and edit this. You can actually edit it, and you can say fill with white. Let's just do this again, view wrap. See, it's got fill none at the moment, so it must do fill, here it's got fill none, this has got fill black. So if we wanted this to be fill white, we could just go FFF and FFF again, and save, and then reload. And now we have our nice white alien head favicon. How neat does that look? Because it actually scales it nicely. Whereas if you did a PNG version of that, as you scaled, it does look crusty. All right, so this SVG width is 800 by 800 by default. The favicon does make it look nice. So if we wanted to test and see it scaling, we can actually just paste this right into index. And then we'll see the full size, but it's white, so now we have to change it to black again. And now we should be able to see it being, see, look how smooth that is. So smooth, because it's SVG. Anyway, that is how you set a favicon. Link rel equals icon, type equals image / x icon, and then the href of its location, which can be a URL, or if you're working locally, it can be a // and then the file name. So yes, there we go, adding a favicon. Today we are looking at the page title. So I just got this quick setup here, just an index with no HTML yet, and in the browser is called index.html, so we want to change this to an actual title rather than index.html. So to do that, we can just add in VS Code. You can quickly add all of the HTML structure with a exclamation mark, and then click this, and it will do your basic doc type in HTML, which also adds our title element, which is what we are looking at. This is how we change the title. So if we save this now, this will change to document, and we can basically add whatever we like in the title here. And that is how you change the page title in HTML. So we can actually add even emojis in here. You can't see my emoji selector, but you can add an emoji there, and then we can go my document title, my document, and a space, and save and reload, and then we get a nice emoji up here as well. And you can see, you can't actually see me hovering over there, but it does show a couple of details on the top there. And that is all really I can tell you about changing the title in HTML. So a nice quick one today. Here is another quick guide, just using CodePen. And this one, we will be making a table manually. So I may as well call this one making a table in HTML. So if you ever wondered how a table works or how to add one manually, this is how you do it. All we really need to do is add the tag table, and then we add the end tag of table, of course. And I'm lazy, so I copy and paste it. And you can actually just add TR and TDs in this if you really wanted to, but if you want to have it super correct in its structure, you would add a T head, and then a closed T head, and then in this you can actually add TH, I think, or does that replace the TD? TR, we can just add T. That's for table row. So now you got table, table head, table row, TR. This is how to do without looking at my keyboard. For some reason I use my microphone blocks where the keyboard is. It's very smart, isn't it? And then yes, you can add, I think, a TH cells in the head. Let's check. This might be wrong. Let's just check. Can't get everything right straight away, can we? That's a TH cell. So I think that's how you use the THs in the head. And I think that TH automatically has a formatting on it. So we'll put a H so we know it is. And it's usually, I think, default just to bold. And now we will finish our T head row. Actually, we'll add another 1 and 2 there. So TH1 and then 2 will make a 3-column table. I can't count today. So now we got TH1 and 2 and 3. And then we move into our T body. I think the only reason you put the T head and the T body in there is for correct structure. So now we were in our T, I don't even know I copied that actually, body, because I'm lazy and I copy, that changed it automatically. That's very clever. Yes, anyway, TR and TH for head, and then we go another T. This is a row, so this is the start of a row. A TR is a row, table row, I guess it stands for. And a table row, I like to end them straight away, otherwise I forget to do it later. And then for our data, we will need to match the top data unless we're using a call span or something like that. So now we go TD, and this is number. I really need to move my mic so I can see my keyboard, don't I? TD. And yes, there's also center alignment as default on these table heads. So let's actually make this table show some borders. Cell, I can't remember how to do border actually. Border equals 1, does that work? I don't remember. Oh, that's the really old school horrible 3D borders that are still built into HTML. That works for now. That's probably not supported anymore or recommended, but while we're editing this table, then you can see where the actual bits go. So this is TH1, which is the top obviously, and we're doing 3 cols. These will just go the size of the data usually. So if we add a whole bunch of data in here, that should resize this all the way out. Yeah. And eventually I think the table just hits the side of the screen, and then it will start wrapping. There are some more settings you can use to change the wrapping, or maybe you should put a BR in there, or wrap less if you want to do manual wrapping. But yes, we will just start with how to create a table. So we won't go too crazily in depth with this. So now we just need to copy our, so we have our table row, and then we have our table data cell. So table data, then the actual data, and the end of the table data. And because I'm lazy, I'm going to copy and paste these and change 2 and 3. And you can see, oh, I better save. And that there is the very basics of creating a table with a terrible looking border on it. Obviously, you would probably not be using these borders because they look quite bad. But that's just to illustrate what the table looks like and how it's kind of laid out. So yes, that is how you add a table in HTML, or make a table in HTML. Today we are looking at HTML lists. I'm just working with VS Code and a very basic index here, and I do have my zoomed browser and regular size browser, so you'll be able to see the preview here. Let's actually change this from white as I'm getting a bit blinded here. We'll just do in VS Code a exclamation mark, and then this will automatically fill a basic HTML document. All right, so HTML lists. Let's go H1 HTML lists. That's what we're working on today, and the first bit of this list, I need to get an automatic refresher for this, don't I? Oof, Times New Roman, but we'll get over it. All right, so list 1 is an ordered list. Basic list in HTML. Can't type today. Our basic list is, let's just scroll so you can see that bit. A list is a UL. This is an unordered list, even though it's still kind of ordered, isn't it? And then a link element or list item is an LI tag. Actually, list item 1, let's reload this. I need an automatic reload, I don't know. Basic list in HTML. And then we have our list item 1. I'll just open the DevTools for a sec and have a look at this. And we will just inspect, let's get rid of this. We don't want responsive, do we? Not really. Now we have DevTools as well. Bonus. Now we can see our list, ULLI, and list item, and the marker item, which we can also set. If we wanted to change this bullet, we can with marker. And that is your basic list. List item 2, list item 3, and 3. And now if we just go an ordered list, which is actually an OL tag. So we'll go an ordered list in HTML, ordered list, which is this whole exact structure here, except we just change this to an OL instead of not an UOL, an OL to ordered list, and that doesn't change my secondary, but that's okay. Let's scroll down so you can see the ordered list and reload this. And an ordered list will add a 1 and a 2 and a 3 by default to the list items. So you got basic list and then OL for ordered list. Now, another interesting thing we can do with these ordered lists is we can actually change the 1, 2, and 3 of the list items to something else by adding a type and then equals, and then you can actually put in A. That is a valid one. You can do it a capital A or a lower A. And if we save this and then reload this, we actually get A, B, C. Do the lowercase as well. If you put in A lowercase and refresh, we will then get A, B, and C. And if you add lists within lists and they're ordered, it will add sub items in these lists automatically. So you can add an I here and it will do the weird, I think it's a bit weird. Well, I guess it's like Roman numeral type lists. I don't know how often these are used. I've never actually used them. Or you do a lowercase I and then it will do the lowercase I, and then IV and V, etc. Let's see what it actually does. Seeing as I have never really used these before. There we go. So it goes IV and then V. So Roman numeral lists. That's kind of a weird thing to have built in. I've never seen that used in an actual web page before. Kind of like a book. Now I just wanted to try and add a sub item so we can see what that looks like. So I think you just do LI and then you can put another list within this, which then gets kind of complicated. OL and then another LI here. And then we'll just see if this breaks everything. So now we've got an I and an I, and so then it kind of restarts it again. I think the default is 1 for these, so you could have an I and then a 1, 2, 3 list within the list, and you can have nested lists forever to be really super complicated. So we've got an I and then 1, 2, 3, and then if we wanted to change that back to Roman characters, then you've got that as well, I and then sub I's, and that is pretty much it. But there is one other weird list that I have seen, which is called a description list, and these are the DT and DL tags. I haven't used them for ages and ages. So basically a description list is just a list of terms, and it kind of has a title and then an item. So you can style them because they have a DL as the main tag and then a DT for the title and a DD for the data, which is a bit strange really, but I guess it's like a described list. So start off with a DL tag, and that's our DL list, and then our title would be a DT, and this is the title, and then the list item is then a DD, I guess for data. Is it a description data, description title, and a description list? So this is data. Let's see what that looks like. Where did my test go? There we go. So we've got title and then data, and then it's a bit weird structure there, because then you've got title 2 and data 2, but it still kind of tabs them in strangely. So you've got title and data 2, data 2. So I guess if you want it to be structured similarly, you would actually tab these in, I guess, if you wanted it to copy this format. The most common list is just the UL. That's the one you usually use for bullet points. That's pretty much it for lists. You can actually change the symbol on the main list item as well. I'm actually going back now to the very first list, and we can change the type on this. I'll just check what the syntax is for it. So we actually change the list style with a style tag for this one. So we just want to add style and then list style type and then circle, and that will change it from bullet, which is its default, to circle, which is kind of just a hollow one. You can also go disk, I think. Yeah, we've got style type disk. I don't think you need style type there, do you? I think you can just put disk there, or you could go list and then style type. So disk, is that a bullet? I'm not sure. What else is there? And there's also a square. List style type square. This should work. Yeah, and now you have a square list of items. And that's pretty much it for lists, I think. Lists in HTML. Today we are looking at what is a div. So a div is a main element that you'll see a lot in HTML. It's basically a block element by default, and we use it to contain other items usually. And you can do a lot of things with divs. You can style them, you can set them to be in the middle, you can set the background, you can put background images in them, and it is one of our probably one of the most used items in HTML if you are going to set some sort of layout. So the way a div works is just div with a close div tag, and then we can put any content in here. Well, I'm not sure about any content, but you can put quite a lot of content in here. I can put my favorite p tag in here with some text. And we have our VS Code set here, and you can see now my text is black because I really can't handle a white background window. So what I should have set here is color. Now we have with some text in a div. So what else can we do with a div? We could put a class on this div, my div, and then we can start styling the div, put a bit of padding on there, padding 20 pixels, put a margin on 20 pixels as well. Reload this, have a look. Now you can't actually see the div because it has a background that is transparent, so we could set the background to something we can see. Teal. Teal's a nice color. Alright, and you can see how this div now has our padding of 20, which is the inside. Padding is on the inside, and the margin is on the outside of 20. So it's got 20 all around and 20 on the inside. If we load our dev tools here, if you can see the dev tools, we go elements, and then we select this, and we can see our div, and we can see that it has the margin 20 and the padding 20. And you can see the background and the default font, which is Times New Roman. Very not nice looking font, or maybe some people like that font. By default, these are block elements, so they'll take up the whole width of the screen. If you wanted, you can center these divs using the margin. So instead of margin 20, you would put margin 20 and then auto, and then you'd set a width on it, width to say 50% of the screen. Now if we save and reload this, you can see it will actually go to 50% of whatever the screen size is. What else can I say about divs? Anything else exciting? They're elements, they're containers, you can put content in them, you can style all of the divs if you wanted to target them by just typing div. This will style every single div on the page instead of having a separate class. And then if you wanted to style every div like this, you could do this instead. And then we can get rid of this class, and it does the same thing. Then we can add another div. If you wanted every single div to have that margin and padding and a background, that will do that with some more text, and that will stack one underneath. You can see how they stack. You can actually change them from block if you wanted to inline block, so they sit next to each other. Display inline block. By default, they are block. And you can change it to inline, which means you can still style them, but they will sit differently. And because I've already got the width and the margins, it's not going to behave itself. But if you go inline block, they'll actually sit next to each other, but still contain still retain the other div formatting. That's all really, I think. Aligning the divs side by side, we already did that. You can float divs as well, but you don't really float them that often anymore. Yes, that is the div and all of the excitement. But yes, this is the basics of div. We'll leave it at that for now, and we'll do flex and grid in another video. Alright, welcome back. Today we are doing what is a HTML ID. Apparently it is actually an attribute. So what can we do with an ID and what is it? Let's create a div and give it an ID. ID equals my div, very original, and this is the ID here, attribute, and this is the ID's name. With IDs, you can only have one of them on the page. So if I have this my div, I cannot have another ID called my div. That was hard to explain for some reason. So I'd have to call this my div 2. And also you can't start a ID name with a number because it doesn't work. I don't know why it doesn't work, but it doesn't. Can we style an ID? Yes, we can, but we're not supposed to do that. But you can style it with a hash. So if you want to target my div in CSS, you just put a hash in front of the my div and you can style it that way. And another thing that we can do with an ID is use it as a jump link. So if we wanted to link to this my div, we could go ahref and then equals hash my div and then do a link, text link, you can't even see it, and you can't jump to this one because it's kind of right under there. So this will be right here. We'd have to add a whole bunch of padding there, which I guess we can do with our style here. So we go margin top, 500 pixels. In my other videos, I actually noticed that I didn't have the whole code window there, but now I do. All right, so now this is down here in the X, and we can use this as a jump link, and still hasn't got enough margin. Let's go to 1500, okay, and make sure that we're not targeting the hash already. So reload, and click. There we go, and that's using it as a jump link. So it actually jumps all the way to the bottom of the X. And that is what a ID is in HTML. That was pretty quick, wasn't it? How to style it, how to link to it, and what it is. There you go. So different to a class and still pretty cool. All right. Today we're doing what is a HTML iframe. Iframes are basically used to embed another web page within your web page. So the tag for iframe is like this. Iframe source, and then we give it a URL, and we give it a title of description, and then end the iframe. So you can use this to embed any site that allows it into your own website. Some of them block it, I think. So if we do https google.com, we will see what happens. Now it says refuse to connect because Google will block any iframe attempts because they don't want you embedding their site. So I'm not sure what a good test site is to show this. Wikipedia.com. Oh yeah, that works. So you can iframe in Wikipedia and then use it here. As you can see, the default iframe width and height are a little bit small, so if we wanted to set an iframe, you can just put in width equals 100%. That will set it to the full browser width here, and then we'll go height 600 pixels. Oh, that's wrong. Height equals 600 pixels. Title Wikipedia. So yes, that is a HTML iframe. Oh, it doesn't want to do my height for some reason. That's probably because it's just height 600, isn't it? Yeah, there we go. So now we have Wikipedia embedded in our HTML document. So all this browser is doing from here is just directly loading this website. And because I have a refresher, it's refreshing it over and over again. But yes, that is what a iframe is. You can also turn the border off on the iframe if you want to not have this attractive border on it. You can target it with just iframe and then go border equals 0. I mean border colon 0. And then that should get rid of our border. And then if we wanted to set the background the same, if you wanted to hide the fact that it's an iframe, not that it really hides it, you could set it, get rid of the margin and padding off this site, and then set it to the whole site if you really wanted to. But we won't do that today. What else can you do with iframes? Anything else? Not really. That's about it. Just embed other sites. You can target the height and width with CSS if you prefer as well. I shouldn't put anything in there. So if we wanted to move this width and height to here, we could do that as well. Just width 100%, height 600, 400 pixels, and then we just get rid of this, and that will style all iframes on the site the same. So that is an iframe in HTML. Amazing. I have my coffee and I'm ready to do some computer code elements today. Now, computer code elements sound a bit weird, don't they? But it's basically a collection of elements that can show bits of code in your HTML. So the elements are KBD, SAMP, code, var, and pre. We'll go through each of these and see what they look like and how they format on the page. Starting off with KBD. Not King Black Dragon, it is for a keyboard input. The way these elements are usually used is between text, and then if I would want to put a KBD reference of F1 plus 3. Now, it doesn't seem to be doing anything to this KBD, does it? So it looks kind of the same as all of the other text. Maybe that's because I have everything set to inter and sans serif. Maybe I'll turn that bit off there and see what that looks like. There we go. So now we can see this is the default text, and then we can see our KBD and some more text. So you would do this if you're referring to a letter on a keyboard usually. And the next one in our list is SAMP. And a SAMP actually defines a sample output from a computer program in a document. That's a bit of a weird one, isn't it? So the SAMP is just SAMP, and then we'll put our error not found exclamation mark. We got refresh on 10, that should come up. There we go. So now we have some text, error not found, program stuff, some text. So that is our SAMP. That's a bit weird, isn't it? It does actually look like an error. It's even got 3 R's just so it's extra angry. The next element is code. And we use this if we want to add some computer code in a document. So within our p tags, we add code, and then we go x plus equals minus something, I don't know, -5. There. And then we reload this. And we have code, and it formats it in a codey looking way. And this does not preserve line spaces. So to preserve line spaces, we need to put a code and then a pre-tag, or we could set it in CSS, and then it will actually preserve all of these spaces as well, and it will preserve this and this and this, which is why we have this here. So if we didn't want it to preserve these tabs, you have to actually indent them back in, and then when you reload it should put them here. But it's adding a extra, I think it's adding a extra bit there. Sometimes I had to do this to make it get rid of the extra line break, but that doesn't seem to be doing that today. And that is the code tag for code. The final element we have is var. That's why I had variable on my brain. So var is just var, and then we put our x or b or a or whatever your variable is, plus another var, I guess, x plus y equals nothing. And then we can see our nice variables x and variable y. I can zoom that in. Should have done that before, shouldn't I? All right, and that's pretty much all of the computer code elements. Pre is actually part of the computer code elements as well, but you usually use it for pre-formatted text within code. Or maybe it's the other way around. Maybe I should put the pre around the code that way. Maybe that's the correct way. I always get that wrong. Come on, indents. How does that look now? Pre-code. Yeah, so you get extra spaces there doing that. I'd say you'd have to kind of squish them all together and then squish that together. Tab that all the way in, and then it should look okay. Yeah, there we're getting the extra line break. That's what I thought. So then you have to have that one there to get rid of that line break, and now we're back to normal. All right. Anyway, that is computer elements. Today we're doing HTML entities. What is a HTML entity? There are certain reserved characters in HTML that must be replaced with entities. One of these is a greater than or a less than tag. If we put this here and reload, it will show up, but that is not correct HTML, and neither is this, and it might break your site. How do we show greater and less than symbols if we want to show them rather than doing this? Because this can cause great confusion. We have to use the entity. So less than actually equals and LT. Less than. That's how you remember it. LT. And greater than equals and GT for greater than. Still gets confusing actually. So put LT equals LT and GT equals, well, that'll be confusing. GT equals GT, and that is now correct HTML. Other character entities. What else do we have? There's actually a bunch of reserved ones. Another very common one is a non-breaking space. Usually if I have a word, I'll just use my favorite p tag, and then if I put a bunch of spaces in here, and then usually again, how will that display? One space. What if we wanted to put heaps of spaces in here? How would we do that? It's a mystery. No, it's not. We have to use a non-breaking space, which is and NBSP : non-breaking space. I don't know what that does. We're using this one today. So you can actually, it will do one space and then it will ignore the rest of the spaces unless we put NBSPs in. This is a very bad way of padding things, but I have seen it done that way before. Usually and NBSPs and then usually. All right, another common one. I was just thinking, did I spell usually wrong? I probably did. Let me Google it. Oh, how embarrassing I did. I spelled usually wrong. It's actually USUALLY. Well, this is not a spelling class. This is a HTML class. No, it's not. It's just a video. Calm down. Right. Other useful entities are ampersand. One of these. Whoa. That did something weird. Where is my ampersand gone? Ampersand. There. If you want an ampersand or an and, you can use and amp. That will show an ampersand. Amp equals amp. BR for break. Double quotation mark. We can do, because you can't use a quote, even though sometimes it shows up like that. It's not valid HTML. So sometimes that will break things. So we should be using, instead of quote, we should use and QUOT equals quote BR. And what else? There's a single quotation mark, a pause, and a pause. And then there is a cent and cent. This is kind of the money stuff, BR. We have cents. I don't know if we use that on a web page very often. A cent. You could use pound as well. There's pound and yen and euro. And another quite popular one is copyright, and copy for copyright. That gives you a nice little copyright symbol. And the final one for the day is registered trademark. I don't think I'll be using that very often. BR and reg. That's the reg mark. So we have C and R. Let's zoom in. R. And that is HTML character entities. Copied up. And that is it. Welcome back. This is actually one of my favorite videos because it has emojis in it. Did you know that you could add emojis to your HTML? Well, if you're using UTF-8, you can. So we have our document setting to UTF-8, which can handle emojis. If you don't have it set to UTF-8, emojis may not work, or probably won't work, but I haven't tried it. They probably won't. Notice display as some weird characters. So to use an emoji, you can use your emoji selector from your operating system. That's the easy way, but this is not the official way of doing it. You can actually add the emoji code for all the emojis. I'll link to the description of the W3 schools, and they have a list of all of the emojis. Actually, I'll just open it here. So I'll include a link to this, and this has all of the emojis and their code that you can use to display the emoji. Alright, back to our file. How do we display an emoji with a code? Start with a p tag, do a hash, then the emoji code, then this. I think there's something else there as well. What did I miss? Apparently I missed the and before the hash. Put an and there, then it turns it into a emoji. Haha. Zoom in, 500% emoji. And that's it really. You can just go through the list provided and you can find all your favorite emojis. Pouting face. That doesn't look like a pouting face at all. And you go and hash emoji ID, and we have, apparently that's a pouting face, but okay. And then if you have an iOS device, your emojis look even nicer. But because I have Windows, I only have the non-cool emojis, but still, they're emojis. So that is how you do emojis in HTML. Or if you have UTF-8 enabled, you can use your emoji selector on your computer. I think Windows, you just do Windows key and the, what do you call that? A colon. Yes, Windows key and colon. Ooh, it sounds a bit rude, doesn't it? And that is how you access the emojis. I just prefer to put them in like that, but you can also look up the reference code. I guess that's probably more compatible. Anyway, enjoy your emojis and like and subscribe. All right, well, you made it through all 25 different segments of the basic HTML beginners tutorial. So thanks for watching, like and subscribe, which I'm sure I've already said a few times, and I'll see you in the next video. I think the next one I'm going to do is going to be a CSS tutorial, so we will concentrate on all CSS stuff next.